All right, so get this right. Meta's AI chatbot, the one that like 400 million people are already using. Yeah, well, now it can like talk to you in celebrity voices.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not just like a gimmick.
No, for sure. It's like straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually happening.
It really is. Think
Yeah.
about it. When you hear a familiar voice, especially one you associate with a certain like personality or like an authority figure.
Right, like you immediately pay attention.
Exactly. Meta's really tapping into something powerful here.
Okay, so for those who haven't heard yet, imagine asking your AI assistant for like the weather forecast and you hear John Cena's voice booming back at you.
Or imagine you're trying to book a flight
Yeah.
and Kristin Bell's voice is like walking you through the options.
That's wild. And it really makes you think about like the possibilities, right?
Oh, absolutely. For marketing, for customer service.
Even like political campaigns. Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah. The potential impact is huge.
This whole thing, though, it reminds me of remember that whole controversy earlier this year with Scarlett Johansson and OpenAI?
Oh, yeah, with the voice thing, right?
Yeah. OpenAI's ChatGPT used a voice that sounded just like her, but like she had no idea, didn't give permission or anything.
Right, and she was not happy about it at all. Understandably, that case really blew the lid off the whole issue of like consent and who owns the rights to a person's voice, especially in the age of AI.
Yeah, it's like suddenly we're in this totally uncharted territory. Legally and ethically, it's a minefield.
Totally. And, Meta says they're partnering with these celebrities, like paying them millions for the use of their voices.
Which, okay, that seems, above board, I guess.
Sure, sure. But it still sets a precedent.
Totally.
And it raises so many questions, like, as this technology gets, even more sophisticated, what happens then? Who owns a voice?
Right.
What about, like, deep fakes?
Ooh, yeah. Don't even get me started on deepfakes. We're talking about like the potential for misinformation and manipulation on a whole other level.
Exactly. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And it's moving fast.
I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. Like, on the one hand, this is really cool tech, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has the potential to be incredibly beneficial.
Right. But then there's this whole other side, this like shadow side where it's like, wait a minute, what could this be used for?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about like any new technology, I guess, right? There's always that potential for misuse.
Okay, so we've talked about like what this technology is and, why it's popping up now. But the big question is like, so what? What does this all actually mean? For us, I mean, for our everyday lives.
Right. Like, how does this actually impact us, on a personal level?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, think about people who are visually impaired, for example.
Oh, wow, yeah.
This technology could be huge for them, making the digital world so much more accessible. Imagine like having your favorite celebrity voice reading you the news or
like helping you navigate a website.
Exactly.
That's actually really cool.
Right.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. It's like you can see the good, right? But then you have to think about
The flip side.
Yeah.
And the potential for harm. Because the thing is, as this tech gets more advanced, as it gets easier to use,
Yeah.
it's going to be harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not.
And that's what freaks me out a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's like, what happens when you can't trust what you see or hear?
Exactly. And that's where things get really dangerous, right? Because we rely on information. We base our decisions on it, on what we see, what we hear.
And if you can't trust any of it.
Exactly. It's like the whole foundation of like how we operate in the world starts to crumble.
Wow. Okay, so like, what do we do? I mean, this feels kind of big and scary. Like, how do we even begin to wrap our heads around this, let alone like actually do something about it?
Right. Well, I mean, I think the first step is just being aware, right?
Okay, yeah. Like knowing this is even a thing, which luckily people listening to this, they're already ahead of the game, right?
Exactly. But
Yeah.
it's more than that, too. It's about like being critical of what we see and hear, especially online.
Like not just believing everything, even if it sounds like, Morgan Freeman or whoever is saying it.
Exactly. And it's also about demanding more from the companies that are creating these tools.
Yeah.
Pushing for transparency, for clear ethical guidelines.
So it's not just about like saying no to progress.
No, not at all. It's about shaping that progress.
So it benefits everyone.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, I don't know, we're standing on the edge of something really big, right?
Yeah.
Like this whole thing with AI, it feels like things are changing so fast.
Yeah, it's definitely a pivotal moment. And it's not just about the technology itself, right? It's about what it means for us as a society, as human beings.
Totally. Like,
Yeah.
what are our values? Where do we draw the line?
Exactly. It's like, how do we want to interact with technology? And how do we make sure it doesn't, like, fundamentally change who we are?
Okay, so, like, big picture question here. Where do we even go from here with all of this?
Honestly, I think it starts with having these conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we have to talk about it, right?
Absolutely. But it's got to be more than just like, oh, AI is scary or, AI is going to take over the world. It has to be like a nuanced conversation.
Totally. We need to be, like, informed and critical thinkers about all of this.
Exactly. And we need to demand more from like the people who are actually creating these tools.
So, like, more transparency from these tech companies.
Yeah. And clear ethical guidelines.
Because, I mean, this isn't just about, like, whether or not it's cool to have Drake, like, read our grocery list for us.
Exactly. This is bigger than that.
It's about, like, the future, really, and what kind of world we want to live in.
Well said. It's about making sure that technology serves us, not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up for today. But before we go, I just want to leave our listeners with this thought. Like, we're all part of this conversation now, right? Even if you're not, like, a tech expert or whatever.
Totally. This impacts all of us.
Yeah. So, like, stay informed, ask questions, and
don't be afraid to like speak up about your concerns.
yes, 100%. All right, so that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.